Hello, Potomac Crossing Ward. This is the lesson for Come Follow Me, Helaman 1 through 6. The general pattern of Alma 43 through 63 continues, with Nephite dissidents causing problems, but mixed into the history is a new element starting in chapter 1, where we see Payanki attempts rebellion in chapter 1, 6 through 8, and then Kishkumen's secret combination starts, chapter 1, 9 through 12. Nephite dissenter Coriantumr leads a Lamanite attack on the Nephites in chapter 1, 14 through 34. Gadianton then takes over secret combinations in chapter 2, 1 through 11. Then there's internal conflict, dissensions, and wars among the Nephites, chapter 3, verse 3 through 22. Secret combinations spread among the Nephites in chapter 3, verse 23. There is polarization and contention within the church, chapter 3, verses 33 through 36. And then contention among the Nephites and dissenters unsuccessfully attempt to instigate Lamanite aggression in chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. Nephite dissenters successfully instigate Lamanite aggression, and the Nephites lose considerable territory in chapter 4, verses 4 through 10. So the theme of Moroni's literally combating dissenters by war carries over to his son Moroniha. But that theme transitions over to the pernicious presence of secret combinations, and they take over as the Nephites' primary problem. The Nephites are still their own worst enemy, just in a different way. The book of Alma was largely driven by a them versus us power struggle, resolved by literal combat. The book of Helaman is about pervasive moral corruption and cultural decay versus religion. With chapter 4 through 6, the physical combat transitions entirely to preaching, as Moroniha, Lehi, and Nephi spiritually combat the dissenters successfully by preaching the gospel, which we see in chapter 4, 14 through 19, and chapter 5, 5 through 52. Mormon comments on this in chapter 4, verses 11 through 13, and also compare chapter 4, 20 through 26, where he identifies the root cause of the Nephites' problem. The preaching is very successful among the Lamanites, so much so that the Lamanites are largely converted. The problem is the Nephites, as they have embraced secret combinations. Chapter 4 informs us the Nephites have entirely gone bad, and chapter 6 explains the Nephites have embraced secret combinations and have become entirely corrupted, while the Lamanites are mostly righteous. The seeds planted in chapter 1 by Kishkumen and Gadianton have fully grown and completely taken over and corrupted the Nephite government. Back in Alma 37, 21 through 31, Alma the Younger, in his handoff conversation with his son Helaman, tells Helaman to not let people know about the secret combinations of the Jaredites because it will result in the destruction of the Nephites. Unfortunately, the Nephites figured them out on their own and embraced them. Mormon comments on this explicitly in chapter 6, verses 25 and 26. Chapter 6 is the pivot point where, after the Lamanite conversion, both populations unite and enjoy exceptional peace and prosperity, which we see in chapter 5, verse 49 through chapter 6, verse 14. However, the Nephites fully embrace secret combinations, and it destroys their culture and society, which we see in 6:15 through 19 and 6:32 through 36. The Lamanites eliminate the secret combination, which we see in 6:20 and 6:37, while the Nephites build it up, which we see in 6:21 through 24 and 6:38 through 40. Mormon comments on the origin of the secret combinations and why it took hold among the Nephites in chapter 6, 25 through 31. This is where Mormon talks about the adversary and Cain and the Tower of Babel, and how all of this was inspired by the same person in which Gadianton and Kishkumen picked up with. Chapters 1 through 6 set up the rest of the book of Helaman. The following chapters are much more personal and driven by first-person narrative. We have Nephi in chapters 7 through 11. We have a rather bitter and unfortunately accurate parenthetical comment by Mormon in chapter 12, where he talks about how people are awful and weak and quickly turn to evil. And then we have Samuel the Lamanite in chapters 13 through 15. The book closes with chapter 16 being a historical summary to transition into the book of 3rd Nephi.